when I popped off.
Hi, I'm Dick McClelland. Welcome to Photoshop 2021 New Features. Now, Photoshop 2021 is a big, meaty update. And so, to give you a sense for what's in store, I'm going to lead things off here with a countdown of my top 5 new features. At number 5, there's sky replacement. Take a drab sky and replace it with a dramatic one. Never worry about the weather again. At number 4, we have the whimsical, if absolutely wacky neural filters. Some are practical, others are just plain entertaining. At number 3, we have a button called Refine Hair, which takes a base selection and turns it into an impressive hair mask. If you're a designer, you'll love number 2, the many, many enhancements to live shapes. My favorite? Instead of drawing skinny rectangles, the line tool now draws lines. At number 1, we have Cloud Document Version History. Did you even know that Adobe was secretly backing up every last autosave of your cloud-based images? For at least the last 30 days, every edit you and your team have made, it's all there. And that's just a rough outline. I didn't even mention pattern preview. I'm Deke McClelland. Please enjoy the following. We're going to start things off with a few enhancements to cloud documents here inside Photoshop. And so here I am looking at the home screen. If you're not, if you have an image open, for example, then just go ahead and click on the home icon in the top left corner of the screen. Then what you want to do is click on Cloud Documents in order to see those documents that you've saved to the cloud. Now, obviously, my documents and yours will be totally different. But here's what I want you to see. When you're looking at the thumbnail view, you're going to see an icon down here in the bottom right corner. A cloud icon tells you that this image is available exclusively in the cloud. This little green arrow icon tells you that it's also been locally cached somewhere on your system's hard drive, which is going to happen when you open the file, by the way, but it's not going to stay that way. At some point, only known by Adobe, that file will once again get a cloud icon, which tells you it's only available on the cloud. So for example, let's say I click on this guy in order to open this image inside Photoshop. I'm going to see a progress bar telling me that Photoshop is downloading that cloud document, so I can work on that file more efficiently. And so now notice if I go ahead and click on that home icon in the top left corner of the screen, this particular image now has a green arrow telling me that it's cached locally. But again, that is an altogether temporary proposition. Let's say you want to make it permanent so that you don't need an internet connection in order to open the file. In that case, either click on this ... icon right here and choose Make Available Offline Always. Or another way to work, just so you know, is to hover over the thumbnail and turn on this checkbox right here. At which point you'll have a handful of options available above and to the right of the thumbnails, which means that you can select multiple files if you like. Then you want to click on this item right here, Make Available Offline Always, at which point the files will upload and save to your system's hard drive. And then a moment later, those cloud icons will change to green arrows as we're seeing all across the board. And that is how you make one or more cloud documents available offline always here inside Photoshop 2021. All right, now just as you can make cloud documents available offline always inside Photoshop 2021, you can also make them available online only. And to do that, switch to the home screen once again, select Cloud Documents, and then if you want to modify a single file, then click on that ellipsis icon, the ... and choose Make Available Online Only. And within a few moments, that green arrow will change to a little cloud. If you want to affect multiple cloud documents, then go ahead and hover over a thumbnail and select the check mark like so. And I'll just go ahead and select this guy as well, so that we have a couple of documents active, at which point I have this option right here, Make Available Online Only. And so if you go ahead and click on that item, you will see little clouds in the place of what were previously green arrows. And what that's going to do is keep the document online so it doesn't harm anything, but it will eventually free up the local cache on your system's hard drive. And that is how you take cloud documents and make them available online only here inside Photoshop 2021. Now, working with cloud documents can be a little disconcerting at times because Photoshop auto saves your work. And so, if you're experimenting with the technique and you then close the file and you expect to get an alert where you say, no, you don't want to save here on the PC or don't save on the Mac, you're just going to close the file and Photoshop will have saved everything you've done. So, you can really mess things up. However, here's the good news. Photoshop is secretly saving versions of your files to the cloud. And now inside Photoshop 2021, you can look at the entire version history. Lots and lots of versions, by the way. And so I'm going to open this guy once again from my cloud documents. I can't provide this as an exercise file because it's not going to do any good. This only works with your files on your cloud. Anyway, I'll go ahead and open this guy, zoom on in as well, and notice under the window menu, we now have this version history command because version history is a panel. You can also get to this panel by going to the file menu and choosing version history, just so you know. And then you'll see a thumbnail of your image along with a bunch of versions down here in the bottom half of the panel. Now, I want you to see something. If I open a local file, a standard PSD file, notice there are no versions. Whereas this guy here, he's a cloud document, but I just saved him today at 4:07 p.m., so there's no other versions going on. Whereas I originally drew this piece of artwork in Fresco, running on an iPad, and then I eventually brought it into Photoshop. And so notice that this month is open right here. I also have some modifications from today, but I'm going to go ahead and scroll down the entire list so that you can see end of history. Versions expire after 30 days. Mark the ones you want to keep, and I'll show you how that works in the next movie. This expiration may change over time, but right now it's 30 days. So if I click on this very first version, it's a blank document that I created in Fresco. Then if I click on the next version, I started drawing the robot cat's head and so forth. And so I can scroll up this list until very early in the morning, you can see at 2 a.m. So I was working pretty late there. I've got the more or less completed version of the artwork. Now let's say you want to open that image in a new window, then click on the ellipsis, the dot, dot, dot right there, and then choose open in a new tab. Now, it may take a moment because it's going to have to download that version of the image from the cloud. But you can see at this point, whereas my final version of the robot is a little wider, a little more squat as well, and all of the layers are named, as we're seeing right here. This particular version from Fresco is a little narrower, a little taller as well, and you can see that I did not name any of the layers. And that is how you take advantage of my favorite feature in Photoshop 2021, which is the version history panel that allows you to go back in time inside any cloud-based document. Now I'll show you how you can bookmark and name versions inside the version history panel so that they remain available well into the future. And so here I am looking at a cloud document. That's very important. If you're working along with me, you should have one of your own cloud documents open, at which point I'll go up to the window menu and choose version history to bring up the version history panel. And notice that this month is currently twirled open, at which point I'm going to scroll down the list until I find these guys right here. Notice there's a version of September 8th at 2 a.m., very creative time for me. And then we have another version more than 12 hours later. I just happen to know that this version right here is Fresco friendly. In other words, I can open and edit all of the layers inside Fresco. This one, however, has been modified inside Photoshop and therefore has a big read-only layer inside Fresco. And so one way to name this version right here and save it as well is to click on the ellipsis icon, the dot, 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 and choose name this version. I want you to note also that in case you make a big mess of a file, well, with Photoshop auto-saving as you go, you can revert to a version if you like. I'm just going to go ahead and click back on the ellipsis in order to hide that menu, because the easier way to work is just to click on this little bookmark icon right there, at which point Photoshop will ask you to name this version. I'll just go ahead and call this guy Fresco Friendly, let's say, and then press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac to accept that change. And notice we have a little bookmark, which shows me that this version will be retained well into the future. So in other words, for more than just 30 days. All right, I'm going to scroll back up the list until I find that version from 12 hours later, and I'll go ahead and bookmark it as well, and I'll call this PS version, let's say, like so, and then press the Enter key, Return key on the Mac. Now let's say you want to abandon a bookmark, then all you need to do is click on that bookmark like so, and the bookmark and the version name will go away. And what's great about this is a pretty jumbo file. It's nearing 100 megabytes, what with all its layers, and yet I have all these versions to choose from, meaning that the cloud is devoting something like a gigabyte, I'm guessing, to this single file. And that's how you bookmark and name versions so that you can access them well into the future when working with cloud documents here inside Photoshop 2021. In this chapter, we'll take a look at a couple of new commands that allow you to select and replace skies. And so here we are looking at a photograph from the Dreamtime image library, about which you can learn more and get some great deals at dreamtime.com/geek. Now, these kids are looking awesome. This is a dynamic shot, but the sky is pretty darn flat. And so what I'm going to do is press the backspace key or the delete key on the Mac to get rid of that URL. Notice that the photographic background is selected here inside the Layers panel, at which point I'll go up to the Select menu and choose Sky. That's all there is to it. And a few moments later, Photoshop will go ahead and select that sky. And notice that it's able to differentiate not only fine details such as the grass, but also these blue jeans. All right, now I'll go ahead and drop down to this black and white circle at the bottom of the Layers panel and click in order to bring up this pop-up menu. I could apply an adjustment layer such as vibrance, brightness, contrast, what have you. I'm going to go ahead and add a gradient, however. So I'll choose the gradient command. In order to bring up the gradient fill dialog box, I'll click on this down pointing arrowhead, expand this basics folder, and select this item right here, black white. And then I'll click off this little pop-up panel to hide it. Now I want the gradient to go in the other direction, so I'll turn on the reverse checkbox, and then I'll go ahead and click OK. That's a little bit much, so I'll change the blend mode from normal to either overlay or soft light. And just to give you a sense for what we've done here, this is the original version of the photograph, and this is the new version thanks to that gradient layer. Now, if you really want to gauge the accuracy of that selection, then notice this layer mask thumbnail here inside the Layers panel. I'll go ahead and Alt-click on it. That would be an Option click on the Mac in order to see that mask independently of the image. And so bear in mind, any place where we're seeing white is where Photoshop selected the sky. Anything that's black, Photoshop did not select. And so notice these blue jeans once again. Photoshop has done a pretty darn good job of distinguishing them from the background sky, although there is a little bit of selection seeping in. And then notice down here at the bottom of the image that Photoshop is capable of distinguishing a fair number of those individual blades of grass. All right, so I'll just go ahead and press Control-0 or Command-0 in order to zoom out. And that is how you select a sky, just by going up to the Select menu and choosing the Sky command here inside Photoshop 2021.